A month ago, I mentioned that one of the best upgrades you can make to your bike isn't a pipe, but a set of lighter wheels. The best possible upgrade for any sporty bike is lighter forged wheels. And a few weeks later, these showed up. A set of forged wheels from a company called Tarns. Now, I didn't pay for them. They aren't paying me to say anything about them. But as luck would have it, I happen to have 3 other sets of the same size Ducati wheels. An OEM set of stock cast wheels, some vintage forged Marchesinis, and some modern forged Marchesinis. So today, I'm going to compare them as best as I know how and see how this all shakes out. Hopefully not literally, right? Now, before we dive in, let's talk about these Tarns. They're made in China, but safety was and is my biggest concern. They have the JWL stamp, that's the Japan Light Alloy Wheel Standard, that you only get when a wheel has passed rigorous strength and impact testing. They sent me their ISO certification and said they're in the process of getting their DOT safety rating. Not to mention that inherently, forged wheels are going to be stronger than cast. So now you know exactly as much as I do. Now, I'm going to rank all of the wheels from 1 to 4, and the low score wins. And while this is totally subjective, let's begin with this test. Let's look at aesthetics. The prettiest wheel, easily the Tarns. I mean, come on, that's stunning. Next would be the vintage Marchesinis. Third, I have to say the cast wheels. I've always loved the look of this wheel. And in a well-deserved last place, the modern forged wheels. I do not like how these look. The spokes look like the alien hand from the old War of the Worlds movie, and once you see it, you're never going to unsee it. Next, the weigh-in. And now I don't have enough front stands to have all of the bikes wheelless, so I'm going to focus on the rear wheels. And the Ducati single-sided swing arm wheels are perfect for this because there's nothing else to get in the way. No rotors, no bearings, no spacers, no sprockets, no hardware. Just the naked truth. First, the OEM cast wheel came in at 4.9 kilos or just under 11 pounds. And then the vintage forged Marchesinis, they weighed a whole lot less, 3.5 kilos or just over 7.5 pounds. Now for the modern forged Marchesinis from my new Multistrada Pikes Peak, and I was not expecting this, 4.4 kilos, only 1 pound lighter than the cast wheels at just under 10 pounds. And then finally, our Tarns, and how about that? They weigh slightly more than the vintage Marchesinis. Now for static balance. I've removed all the wheel weights and we're gonna see how that works out. My experience has been anymore that tires are so good, they don't require any weight. You're typically balancing the wheel. So the wheel that balances with the least amount of weight wins. And besides, nobody wants a wheel that shakes like a misloaded washing machine, especially when that machine is capable of triple-digit speeds. Cast wheel took 21 grams or 3/4 of an ounce. And the vintage forged wheels took 1/2 ounce or 14 grams. Modern forged took 7 grams or 1/4 ounce, half as much. The Tarns also took 3/4 ounce or 7 for 21 grams. Now the interesting thing with the Tarns, on all the Marchesini wheels, the heavy spot was always at the valve stem. On this one, the valve stem's sitting at 90 degrees, the heavy spot's, well, where it is, and the valve stem's there. That's different from all the others, a little bit interesting. I don't know if it means anything, but it's worth pointing out. Next, we're gonna test runout. I'm gonna test the wheels for how true they are, like a bicycle wheel, and then again for how round they are. Now for roundness, the cast was off the most at 0.74 millimeters out of round. The vintage forged was out only 0.20 millimeters. The modern forged was out by 0.45. That one surprised me. And the Tarns was out by 0.36 millimeter. I think of note is that all the forged wheels were less than 0.5 millimeter off, which is pretty much inconsequential. Now for measuring true, not surprisingly, the cast was out a lot, 1.1 millimeters out of true. The vintage forged, 0.26 millimeters out of true. The modern forged, 0.35 millimeters. And then the Tarns, 0.12 millimeters out of true. Now, before I show you the final rankings, let's talk for a second about why you would want forged wheels. You see, cast wheels, all they do is they basically pour hot aluminum into a mold and let it cool. It's cheap, it's easy, but there can be pockets of air or tiny voids which end up being weak spots. Plus, the grain structure of the aluminum is irregular, which weakens resistance to cracking, fatigue, and impacts. And almost every wheel on every motorcycle is a cast wheel. Next, we have flow form wheels. It's a hybrid method, halfway between casting and forging, but I'm not aware of any motorcycles that come with flow forged wheels. Now, lastly, let's talk about forged wheels. They're relatively common, but what they do is they take a solid block of aluminum and they heat it up and then put it into a forging press where it's compressed under thousands of tons of pressure to realign the metal grain structure before undergoing a controlled cooling process before the final stage where it undergoes CNC machining to get the final aesthetic result. Forged wheels are extremely strong, they're quite a bit lighter than cast wheels, they cost a hell of a lot more to make, and are crazy durable. They are stronger in almost every measurable way, including they're better at impact and fatigue resistance, but they're also a lot lighter, and lighter is what we're really looking at here.
Okay, so then how do all of these wheels rank? Instead of just going off of cost alone, because OEM wheels cast or forged are over $2,000 per wheel, but there are some that are available on eBay. Cost of wheels can vary widely based on your bike, and so many other variables that I decided to combine cost with availability. Now, what really surprised me was how well the vintage forged wheels performed, but good luck finding a set. I searched for over a year for these before finding them and having them shipped to me from Japan.
Now that we've gotten through all that, I'm going to throw the Tarns on my Pikes Peak and take it for a ride. Now, seeing as how the forged wheels that came on this bike were the second heaviest, I'm curious to see, well first, I think they're gonna look sick, so I wanna see that. But second, I wanna know how they handle on a traditional street bike. Will I be able to tell any difference? Let's go for a ride and see. Oh man, straight away, you can tell immediately. As soon as you tip into the first corner and when you go back to the gas, yeah, it just, everything happens a little faster, a little bit more precise. Yeah, forged wheels, like lighter wheels make such a difference. Yeah, I'm just gonna ride up the road now. So here's the thing, I came to this conclusion years ago. I've put lighter forged wheels on pretty much every bike I've owned for the last 10 years. And every time it still surprises me how much of a difference it actually makes. I mean, think about it. You buy a pipe and you usually need a tune to go with it. Just a link pipe or a cat eliminator can run $700. And the last dyno tune I paid for was nearly $1,000. Now, suspension upgrades, a decent shock is over $1,000, cartridge kits hit $2,000. And that's before you install or spend all the hours dialing in settings. But lighter wheels, they make everything better. Handling, acceleration, braking, without any extra effort. Why? Because they reduce what's called the moment of inertia. Lighter wheels take less energy to spin up, slow down, or to change direction. So the bike feels quicker, it's more responsive, and the suspension feels more planted, even though you haven't touched a single clicker. And there's also a fuel economy improvement to be had too. So now, what did we learn here? Tarns isn't some new fly-by-night brand. They've been around for over 15 years, but they're just now entering the US market. They reached out to me, they showed me their facility, they shared their certifications, their forging process, even the custom finishes that they can do. And based on everything I know to check, the quality is legit. But what really sticks with me is this. It's one thing to ride a Ducati or an Aprilia where you can sometimes find used forged wheels. But what if you ride something less exotic, where forged options are almost non-existent? That's where a company like Tarns becomes really interesting. Now, as of this video, they don't have online ordering, but if you're curious, you can reach out to them directly through their socials, and I'll drop links in the description. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something along the way. And if not, I at least hope you were entertained. Big thanks to Tarns for sending me the wheels and for giving us a reason to geek out about one of the best upgrades you can make to any motorcycle. Please click like and consider subscribing, and don't forget about our monthly email newsletter for even more great free content. Thanks so much for watching. Ride on and ride well.